Kunj Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari Yashodanandana Rajadanarandana Yashodanandana Rajadanarandana Shira Vanashari Jamuna Shira Vanashari Radha Nagarva Kunj Bihari Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Hari Yashodanandana Brajadanarandana Yashodanandana Brajadanarandana Yamuna Tira Vanashari Yamuna Tira Vanashari Hera Madhava Kunj Bihari Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Radha Madhura, Madhura, Jaya Radha Madhura, Madhura, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Gaura Simanandi. Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa. Parivrajakacharya Stotra Satya Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Shribai Charan Arvind Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki ISKCON DBT Founder Acharya of Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Samaveta Bhaktivedanta Ki Harinama Sankirtan Ki Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jaini Tagore Pimanande. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and to Sri Gauranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurandritam Jena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaisnavam Sya Sri Rupam Sagradatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tvam Sajivam Tadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakanvitam Sya Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisa Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tasakancana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Suchidevi Pranamami Haripriye Vansakalpa Terubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyaiva Cha Paditana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Narayanam Namaskritya Ram Seva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Diraya. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us offer respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the most supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayesha badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttamasloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahmasamitam Uttamaśloka Charitam Sakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasaya Lokasya Anyam Swasaya Namaha. This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God as Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Surabhyaya Namaha. Om Surabhyaya Namaha. Om Surabhyaya Namaha. Mukham karoti vasaram pagom nangayate girim yad kripa tamaham vande Sri Gurum Dinataram. Yad kripa tamaham vande Sri Gurum Dinataram. Hare Krishna. Welcome to a Bhagavatam class, continuing from the second canto, chapter 6. Today text number 33. Yeah. Iti te vihitam tata yatedam anuprishyasi nanyad bhagavatah kinchid bhavyam sad asad atmakam iti te vihitam tata iti te vihitam tata yatedam anuprishyasi nanyad bhagavata kinchid bhavyam sad asad atmakam iti te vihitam tata yatedam anuprishyasi nanyad bhagavata kinchid bhavyam sad asad atmakam iti te vihitam tata yatedam anuprishyasi nanyad bhagavata kinchid bhavyam sad asad atmakam iti te vihitam tata yatedam anuprishyasi
Bhagavatah kinchit
Nanyan Bhagavata Kinchit
Bhavyam Sat Sada Asatatmakam Bhavyam Sada Sadatmakam Iti Te Vihitam Tata
Iti Te Vihitam Tata Yate Dhammanupritsasi
Nanyad Bhagavata Kinchit
Nanyad Bhagavata Kinchit
Bhavyam Sada Sadatmakam
Bhavyam Sad Asat Atmakam Iti. Thus, Te unto you Abhihitam explained Tata, my dear son, Yatha, as Idam, all these, yeah. Anuprishasi, as you have inquired, na, never, and yet anything else, Bhagavataha, beyond the personality of Godhead, Kinchit, nothing, Bhavyam, to be thought, ever. Sat, cause, asat, effect. At makam, in the matter of. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Sridham Prabhupada Ki. My dear son, whatever you inquired from me, I have thus explained unto you, and you must know for certain that whatever there is, either as cause or as effect, both in the material and spiritual worlds, is dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kindly repeat after me. My dear son, whatever you inquired from me, I have thus explained unto you, and you must know for certain that whatever there is, either as cause or as effect, both in the material and spiritual world, is dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Report. The complete cosmic situation, both in the material and in the spiritual manifestations of the energies of the Lord, is working and moving first as the cause and then as the effect. But the original cause of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but the Supreme Cause is, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Effects of the original cause become the causes of other effects. And thus everything, either permanent or temporary, is working as cause and effect. And because the Lord is the primeval cause of all penances and all energies, he is called the cause of all causes, as confirmed in the Brahma Samhita as well as in the Bhagavad Gita. The uh, the Brahma Samhita 5:1 affirms Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachit Ananda Vigraha Adir Govinda Sarva Karanam. And in the Bhagavad Gita 10:8, it is said, Aham sarvasya prabhavo matas sarvam pravartati iti madhva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. So the original primeval cause is vigraha, is personal, and the impersonal spiritual effulgence, Brahmajyoti, is also an effect of the Supreme Brahman, Brahmanohi, Pratistaham, that is Lord Krishna. Translation again. My dear son, whatever you have inquired from me, I have thus explained unto you. And you must know for certain that whatever there is either uh, is either as cause or as effect, both in the material and spiritual worlds, is dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Srila Prabhupada making reference here in the purport to two very important literatures, namely the Brahma Samhita and the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, we learn from Bhagavad Gita itself. Krishna is telling that he spoke this Bhagavad Gita millions of years to the sun god. Brahma Samhita even older. Brahma Samhita is spoken at the beginning of the creation. It is rather uh, inconceivable how, you know, Lord Brahma, it is said, just celebrated his 50th anniversary. It's possible to know what is the age of our present Brahma in this universe. So Brahma is just like, I guess, entering Vanaprastha life. So the knowledge that he revealed, of course, that is the Vedas, and part of that also are these prayers of Brahma Samhita, uh, which are very important in that they are directly speaking about the spiritual world, describing Chintamani Dham, the spiritual worlds. So this verse is emphasizing again about the personal aspect that whatever uh, is existing, the original cause of all that we see and all that we experience is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Prabhupada is quoting the one of the seed uh, verses. There are 4 what we call seed verses in the Bhagavad Gita, which are summarizing the entire philosophy, beginning with 10:8. So chapter 10:8 is as mentioned here. Yeah. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartati iti madva bhajanti mam buddha bhava samamvitaha. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who know this perfectly engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. And of course, the Lord continues in the Bhagavad Gita, the second of the 4 seed verses, Maschita Madgata Prana, Bodhayanta Parasparam, Katayanta Samam Nityam Tusyanti Cha Ramanti Cha. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me, their lives are surrendered to me, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss, enlightening one another and conversing about me. So, Dharma, which is the essence that we find in the Shastra. Shastra is all about concept of Dharma, which is actually very different than what generally people think about in terms of religion, isn't it? Sometimes people are asked if they are religious, and people will generally determine how religious they are by how many times they go to church in the Western country. I suppose in a similar way, how many times people go to the temple. Being religious is one thing, but being dharmic, being dharmic is different. Means, just like this verse is explaining here, that dharma dharma is meant to be what we could say a full-time commitment or a full-time occupation. Just like sometimes we ask people, is he a full-time devotee? Normally, full-time devotee means someone who's staying in the temple, isn't it? He's a full-time devotee. But there are many full-time devotees living outside temple. Because full-time does not mean a physical place. One can be a full-time devotee, and one not only can be, but should be. One should be a full-time devotee regardless of whether one is staying in the temple or not. In other words, we understand, especially from these two literatures, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and of course also Brahma Samhita, how uh, our whole existence, our whole existence is meant to be centered on dharma, our whole life, our whole purpose of being. And therefore, someone who develops this consciousness naturally sees the world differently than one who does not develop that consciousness. Um, one who actually understands about dharma will know how not to become entangled or overly involved in material affairs in the material world. Because the more we become implicated, that is why in the Vedic culture, married life, for example, is meant to be only for a certain number of years, isn't it? And it is only 1/4. I mean, it's like those who are, yeah, 1/4 of one's life is meant to be lived in householder life. That means that, like Kali Yuga, although most people don't live till 100 years, but the age limit, more or less, is supposed to be 100. So only 1/4 of that 100 years is meant to be lived in householder life. Brahmachari life is the first part of one's life, which is meant to train and to educate individuals about dharma, essentially, isn't it? If one does not receive this type of training and understanding, then inevitably one will become allured, attracted, implicated in material, mainly, primarily in material activities. So it is not that as Krishna consciousness we reject the material world, but we understand the dangers of becoming overly involved or implicated and losing sight of what the primary goal and objective is. This understanding is nicely, very clearly given, especially in the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam also. And it means that also even those who are in householder life, their primary target in life is actually meant to be the same. Because all of these 4 divisions, that's why the concept of Varna and Asrama is so important. If we don't realize or understand how every phase of our life is meant to be within ashram, brahmacharya ashram, grihastha ashram, vanaprastha ashram, and sannyas ashram. The common denominator, isn't it? The common factor is ashram. And what is the essence of ashram? The primary focus in ashram is yes, ultimately to surrender unto the lotus feet of Krishna means to uh, endeavor for spiritual emancipation, for self-realization, isn't it? Um, that is Prabhupada explains actually that this is the uh, main defect, main defect of modern day society is that they don't know what the primary goal of life is, isn't it? I mean, so many people, of course, don't even believe in God. Uh, at least, at least believing in God is, as Prophet explains, as our Vedic literature uh, also explain, is actually the beginning of civilization. If we don't believe, that is what distinguishes uh, uh, human life from animal life. Human life, actually, in the verse we read just recently, uh, Varnasrama is that system that brings one from animal life to human life, and then that brings one from human life to spiritual life. Because human life devoid of spiritual life is no better than animal life, isn't it? Uh, so this is a very important aspect that the whole of this is the uh, uh, very clear, strong message, let's say, given in the Vedic culture that we need to properly utilize this human form of life to cultivate this knowledge. And of course, in the whole modern setup that we have today, even as devotees, we find it is not so easy. I mean, how much time? Okay, we have Bhagavatam class for half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour every day. But over and above, you know, this time we are spending in the Bhagavatam, how much time do we spend um, hearing or discussing uh, or studying other Vedic literatures? Isn't it? Our whole modern culture is arranged in such a way. You'd like to know a little bit what's going on here. Uh, our whole Vedic culture, I mean, our whole modern society is arranged in such a way that we are practically forced to be busy in so many other things um, uh, other than the essential things. That is the defect of modern day society because of its over emphasis on so-called material development, economic development, material well-being. Uh, Most people, uh, this was shared. One devotee came to Krishna consciousness because he heard this explanation, which is there, of course, in the Shastra, that it is already determined how much from the moment we are conceived. From the moment we are conceived, it is already determined how much of happiness and distress will be there in this life. Distress begins in the womb, you know. Distress begins in the womb. So sometimes people they can through hypnotism they can be brought back to previous states of consciousness, and they will remember that when they were in the womb, they were uh, suffering. They were suffering because they came to know that actually their mother was being beaten. If somebody is in the womb, if the child, when the child is in the womb, and if the mother who is carrying the child in the womb is beaten or suffering, either physically or emotionally, that effect goes to the child also, isn't it? Uh, just like it's recommended for pregnant mothers, or for pregnant women, they are on their way of becoming mothers. Um, so they are mothers also, they're carrying. So the doctors recommend they should be very careful. They should limit the amount of chilies that they eat. If they eat too much chili, it will, because taking too much of what is hot, spicy food is not good for the body. Some spicy food is, okay, but overly indulging in spicy food uh, will have a negative effect not only on the mother but on the child. So many things about all of us as we sit here or stand here um, all started actually in the womb. But the main point is that, main important point, this one devotee was realizing that uh, due to my previous activities, due to karma, how much of happiness I will get in this life and how much of unhappiness or distress is already determined. Just like, to help us understand more easily, do we plan, do you know anyone, any of your friends, acquaintances, family members, do any of your friends or acquaintances, do they plan for bad things to happen? Do they plan for unhappiness? Do they plan to become, distressed? Do they plan to suffer? Nobody plans to suffer. Only a crazy person. We don't plan to suffer. Suffering comes on its own accord, isn't it? Yeah. Does Chaitanya plan to be unhappy? No. No, no one plans to be unhappy. Yeah. So Shastra is telling us uh, unhappiness or distress will come in the same way happiness will also come. Happiness will also come of its own accord. So why so much endeavor to get happiness? Isn't it? So therefore, in the Vedic culture, one is not overly preoccupied. I mean, if one is very advanced, he's not at all, not at all preoccupied with so-called happiness and distress of the material world, because it is, as Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, uh, everything is happening based on these modes of material nature. Especially those who are not God conscious, Krishna conscious, they are simply completely, as like in a prison house, one is having to follow, one is under the stringent laws of the prison house. One has to do this at this time, one has to do this at this time. So those who are not Krishna conscious, their whole lives is conducted by these modes of material nature. So therefore, we know that the majority of people in the material world, they're working very hard trying to increase their level of happiness, isn't it? Trying to increase their bank balance, thinking that if I have more wealth, then I can enjoy more, I can be more happy. But that is actually an illusion, because the amount of happiness and distress is already determined uh, based on our in the Vedic culture. We also know that even one may have so much of so-called material happiness, because there are many people who are having so much of wealth, so much of material facilities, but still there's that expression in English that money cannot buy happiness. There are many miserable millionaires or billionaires for that matter. Money is not what makes one happy, because happiness is something of the heart. The essence of the heart actually means the soul, isn't it? Real happiness is happiness of the soul. So therefore, Vedic culture is less concerned about the ups and downs, or the uh, combination of happiness and distress that is taking place on the material level. Vedic culture, one is more preoccupied with permanent happiness. Permanent happiness is that happiness uh, on the transcendental platform, but even on the transcendental platform, and Prabhupada is making this point again and again, because on the transcendental platform, the impersonalists are also transcendentalists, but they don't know about actual permanent happiness. At most, they know about what is called Brahman realization. Uh, what is called Brahmabhuta. Brahmabhuta prasanatma na sochati na kanchati. Brahmabhuta. What is Brahmabhuta platform? Chaitanya. What is Brahmabhuta? It is that realization, aham brahmasmi. I'm not this body, I'm spirit soul. Aham brahmasmi. But actually that realization will bring na sochati na kanchati, no anxiety, no hankering, no lamentation. But that is not a permanent position. At most, one can experience what is called Brahmananda. But Brahmananda is not permanent, because it does not address our real nature. We are Brahman, we are spirit, but actually we are a person. Living entity is also Vigraha, having form, having personality. So therefore, this point is in this chapter. It's been brought up many times by Srila Prabhupada that unless one comes to that point of knowing about Krishna, of establishing our relationship with Krishna, of understanding what is Krishna's purpose and mission. Krishna has a mission when he descends in the material world. He has a mission for having created this material world. Unless we know about that, then we cannot be satisfied. We cannot be happy. Just like the very well known verse, Bhoktaram Jagatapasam Sarvalokam Maheshwaram Suridam Sarvabhutanam Gyatvanam something this is it. Suridam Sarvabhutanam. Krishna, he is uh, seated as Paramatma within the soul, within the heart, and he is the well-wisher of all living entities. So it means it's not true when people say, I don't have any friends. Their best friend is actually sitting within their body, within themselves. People say they don't have any friends, they just don't know. They've not been taught, they've not been educated that actually they do have. Therefore, even the whole world may be not supporting or understanding us if we are convinced that Krishna is present within the heart, then we will never come to that conclusion that we don't have any friends. So, of course, the best friends are those who are cultivating this knowledge, the Vaishnavas, because Vaishnava, they are also having that same quality of Krishna. Vaishnava is described as Titikshava Kurunika Suridam Sarvadehinam. He is also Suridam Sarvadehinam. He is the best friend. Vaishnava. Vaishnava, like Krishna, knows the condition of the material world, knows the condition of the conditioned souls who are suffering due to not having revived their connection with Krishna, isn't it? Yeah. So that's why we, as devotees individually and as devotees collectively, and as ISKCON as a society, we are meant to, part of what we are striving to accomplish is to create that situation where we are less encumbered by material things, and we have more time for spiritual activities. That's why when we are reading in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, how the devotees, when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was staying in Jagannath Puri, that every year for 20 consecutive years, for 20 years in a row, hundreds of devotees from Mayapur, Navadvip area, different villages, they would travel to Jagannath Puri. And they would stay in Jagannath Puri for how long? 4 months. Who can stay away from home for 4 months? For 20 years. They would go from Mayapur to Puri, that's 1 month traveling. They would stay 4 months. That's 5 months. Then they would come back another month, 6 months. Only Vedic culture, which is based on agriculture, can allow one to do that. Isn't it? Otherwise, if you have like a job, forget about, you get maybe like 3 weeks a year paid holiday in America. I don't know about India. And you get in between, little holiday here and there. But like there's approximately 3 weeks holiday, paid holiday. But if we follow Krishna's system is that you just work a few weeks of the year, actually, for planting your seeds in your land, and then minimal attention is given. So and one would live what we call extended family. So this going to Jagannath Puri for 4 months was only possible because there was somebody else staying back and able to kind of manage things. So this is also absent in modern day society. We have broken this concept of extended family. Means actually community within one family. Families were very united. They were united because they were primarily very dharmic. Prabhupada explains how there were some of the, let's say, Brahmana, Kshatriya families, they would have their own temple in their home, their own deities, isn't it? What we see in our ISKCON temples, in some people had big temples also, but the idea is that every day all the members of the family, they had to come and participate, or at least this was especially for the all the three orders, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya. So Prabhupada explains how he knew of one family where the mother was responsible to have everyone attend the program. This was a Vaishya family, I think. Vaishya means they were into business and sometimes had to leave for work and whatnot. So Prabhupada was telling that if someone failed to come and at least offer their obeisances to the deities, the mother had arranged a fining system. You have to pay so much money. Yeah. Because and that was one was duty bound. One was duty bound because dharma means actually duty, isn't it? Primary, or one of the meanings of dharma means law, duty. We are duty bound to follow the law. We are duty bound to follow dharma. We are duty bound to offer respects. Yeah. So let's see here. Our verse was 33. Yeah. So we'll just read the verse again here. Lord Brahma speaking to Narada, my dear son, whatever you inquired from me, I have thus explained unto you. And you must know for certain that whatever there is either as cause or as effect, both in the material and spiritual worlds, is dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is the conviction of a devotee. Whatever he sees, whatever he experiences, he knows that it is connected with Krishna. Uh, all things that take place are sanctioned, even though we may not understand why they are taking place, but the original source is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Comment or question?
America, they pay for 3 months holidays, paid holidays. Why they have paid that?
Not 3 months, 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Why?
Why they are paying like that?
Why they are paying like that? Otherwise, they will lose their employees. No, the idea is that people are working for some company. So normally uh, holidays come in the what we call summer, because winter time is very cold. So it is like you could say uh, it is like a benefit or a gift that you are working for my company. So out of um, gratitude, uh, you can have so many weeks of holiday, and that will be also paid holiday, so that you come back to my company. It's all motivated. Because by keeping that person in their company, uh, they are making enough profit that they can, you know, they can give them that paid holiday. They are not losing. Those who are business people, they they are especially expert in how to make more money. But this is the materialistic modern way of thinking, which is not Vedic way of thinking. Vedic way of thinking, we don't work for money. That we don't work. That is not the primary purpose of working. Yeah. And also, someone reminded, well, it's there in the Shastra, how, according to Vedic culture, those whatever we are earning, 50% we should give to Krishna for preaching purposes. So brahmacharis, they don't earn money, so don't have to pay 50%. Yeah. Sannyasi don't make money, don't have to pay 50%. Those who are vanaprastha also, they don't make money. Yeah. Grihastha, they make money. And because they have to make money, many grihasthas have many headaches. Not so easy to make money. Yes. Okay.
We also have the same system in the company. So if you go for 6 months or 4 months to the shift,
Yeah.
so you can stay half of the contract duration. And after that, they give a period of 1 month extra. Say, for example, 4 months I go. So 2 months I can stay here plus 1 month. So it is 3 months. So if I can join after 3 months also. But if I join before 3 months, I'll get rejoining bonus. They pay the rejoining bonus.
Is it, huh?
Yeah, something like for 1 month, $200 something. So in this way, like 4 months, I get something $800. Like this is a rejoining bonus. They want to hold the people.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Huh? Yeah. Yes.
If somebody is paying better money, these people will jump there.
Correct.
And here, during the time of crisis, nobody will be left over.
Yeah. Yes. Very complicated. Life becomes more and more complicated when we are uh, remaining on the bodily platform, isn't it? The more we are on the bodily platform, then we become materially motivated. We start to calculate, and we start, this whole plan making, and the situation becomes very complex. The less we are on the bodily platform, then mind is more peaceful, and we learn to adjust or to accept situations. Does not mean that devotees don't make any effort, but they are not overly preoccupied as, let's say, gross materialistic persons are. Yeah. Okay, we can close here. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Jai Sri Prabhupada ki. Jai Nitai Gaur Pimanandi.
Swami Maharaj ki.